Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about, why we have an obesity crisis in the Western world. And it isn't some of the nonsense that people come up with. They always try to bring it down to a single variable, right? The keto people say it's carbohydrates. The vegan people say that it's meat and animal products. You have all these different fringe groups who have these really strong opinions. A lot of people point out, well, it's just all the junk food we eat and the hyper palatable food combined with, so again, just higher energy intake, lower energy turnover. But even that isn't a full explanation, because as energy intake goes in, energy output goes out also. In other words, as you gain weight, your metabolic rate is going to go up. So that's something we have to consider in there too. Yet people continue to gain weight. And again, you see people who make up nonsense like, oh yeah, it's because your metabolism is slow. But it's not. That's not what the research shows. Someone who's morbidly obese tends to have an extremely high metabolism, right? They have a lot of tissue to sustain. They also have a high energy input, so their thermic effect and everything else is higher. They don't have slow metabolisms. So what does a lot of it come down to? I think it comes down to two very simple factors combined together. Okay, and I think they're very straightforward, and the data would support this. Number one, yeah, it is the access to unlimited amounts of hyper-palatable calorie-dense foods. That means that foods that are very high in calorie and energy per unit of volume, right? That's what calorie-dense means. Combined with hyperpalatability, that usually means either fat with sweet or fat with salt. Okay? So, but again, the fatty is usually required for caloric density. In that combination, perfect example, any sort of sweets, they tend to be very high fat and they have a bunch of sugar and sweetener. Right? Hits both of those taste buds concurrently, or really salty and fatty. Bacon, pizza, the food that people tend to binge on, they tend to overeat, plus the fact that we just add large amounts of just extra calories to everything in the form of oils, refined sugars, all this stuff just combined together in this amalgamation. All right, that's that's what makes it possible for this to occur. All right, then we have the other thing. We use food as medication. We use food as a reward. We use food as a coping mechanism. Food is the single most abused drug in the Western world. Okay? So when we're dealing to some extent with the obesity crisis, we're also dealing with a mental health crisis, aren't we? Okay? We're dealing with a mental health crisis. And we have a society that has built our structure around rewarding everything with food. All your social gatherings, what are they about? Food. Okay, so then we associate social gatherings and being happy and time with friends and loved ones with what? Hyperpalatable food. Treat foods, right? We associate it with that. As a society, we've built a lot of our culture around that. So you have that. Then we have the fact that food is given as comfort. Food is given as rewards. Okay, even when we're children, you reward kids. People reward kids with treats. It even can happen at school, right? You guys did really good. We're going to have the pizza party, or we're going to have this ice cream party because the kids in the class reached this achievement. Okay? It becomes that we associate, we've earned all this food, right? We've done good. But then we also associate it with comfort. Having a bad day, I'm stressed. I'm going to reward myself with a treat to make me feel better. Again, now we're over to comfort. It's being used as a comforting mechanism, a coping mechanism to stress. Well, we live in a high-stress society, don't we? Well, now we have a recipe for disaster. And that would be fine if these things weren't just readily available and they weren't just done on occasion. But we have a problem to where These foods are normal staples in our everyday diet, these treat foods, right? Things that we would think of as rewards and treats are now major staples. Fast food, dessert, like I mean, everyone thinks that dessert is part of a meal. Okay? Our culture is now built, part of it, into the idea that dessert is part of like your dinner, your evening, that it's part of your regular meal. Wow. Do we see the problem there? Not an occasional treat. Dessert isn't something that we get to do on Friday night. Dessert isn't something that we do at a big family function or get together. Dessert is now part of our routine. These treat foods that should be reserved become our normal. Okay. We see where the cultural ramifications of this are when we then live in an environment to where these treat foods are available everywhere, every grocery store you walk in. And people say, oh, it's just, no, it's not just sugar. Look at any of these sweet foods and look at the fat content. It's sugar combined with very large amounts of fat. Not just combined with fat, it's large amounts of fat. It's often refined fats. Butter, shortening, vegetable oils. Okay? That's what our desserts are. Our desserts are not just, oh, it's just fat or it's just sugar. It's both. In every meal, every fast food place, everything's got a dessert with it. You can get a milkshake, whatever, with it. But you're already oftentimes eating, especially you've had a cola too, you're already eating really high fat foods. Then you combine that refined sugar liquid with it. That way we double down. Okay. It's the unlimited access to these foods with a culture that is now teaching us that they're a reward, they're a coping mechanism, and they're part of regular meals. Okay? It's this whole combination. And then we're raised in this environment, and people don't know any better. They simply do not know any better because it has become a way of life. And then they go, I don't know how to diet. I don't know how to lose weight. Nothing works. I've tried everything. Other than changing the mindset, the culture, the habits, and what foods they eat on a careful, consistent basis instead of trying to do a crash diet. Right? So here's our problem. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.